Alright, so, heyo, my fellow remote maniacs, and welcome to yet another installment of Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN Relic Loadouts. So today, I'm going to be doing a little something that I refer to as that one build. So, you might be asking yourself, what exactly does that one build, entail? So, with all the times that I've spent on this game and, putting, seeking about all the hours and everything like that into it, I managed to get a handful of relics over the course of my journey, if you will. So much so that I managed to make various different loadouts for different reasons. Some of them could be entail with like certain using them against certain bosses, like having like my stirring weapon doing the main status effect of whatever the boss is weak to. And others could be that overall something that, could be, a thing for me personally or my team or maybe a little bit of both. And then there's what I would say is that one build that I probably would say is my go-to thing that I would probably use for a lot of the times if I was playing all the characters in this game. So I figured that I would show you guys that one loadout from each character that I've made, to maybe give you guys, some inspirations, right, and everything, and I don't know, maybe you guys might have something that, you can, suggest to me as well to make things a little bit different. Now, before I show off the relics and everything, um, I do want to kind of put it out there and say that some of these relics can be gotten, you know, some of these relics can be gotten from doing certain things. Some of them might involve like doing remembrances for certain characters. Others you might be able to get them from like say either like the small jar bazaar, or even some of them, which in my case would be the collector signboard that's outside Round Table Hold. And then there's those that are pretty much RNG like that. Some of them could be, considered god tier like, even if it might not be like a full 100%. So what I want to do is I'm going to select Wilder, and we're going to go from him all the way to the final character, which is the Undertaker. So yeah, all right. So this is my loadout that I have for Wilder. I basically just call it the Wilder loadout. I'm using Wilder's Chalice, which has a red, yellow, and white slot. Or the white slot is a freebie slot, so you can put any color that you want. And these are the relics. So Wilder's Earring. It has +1 additional character skill use. Art activation spreads fire and area for Wilder. And stamina recovery upon landing attacks. This here is a remembrance relic that you do from doing Wilder's Remembrance. If I remember correctly on how to get it, I believe you have to beat Hellster as Wilder while also having the silver tier equipped so you can get Wilder's special ending. Um, it's a very nice little thing in my opinion. So, yeah. Next up is the yellow Grand Luminous Scene. Has critical hits for more art gauge. Defeating enemies shows more art gauge, and ultimate art auto charge +3. Now, this is one that you can be able to get out in the collector sideboard. I don't know 100% for sure if like you have to beat like an Everdark Silent boss or something, or if it's just there. But yeah, it's basically the things you get out there in the collector sideboard. Once you unlocked it and everything like that. Really good in my opinion. I have this in quite a few of my builds. Some of them you may see, some of them you might not. And then we have the red Grand Burning Scene, where it has, I think for Wilder, where standard attacks enhances fiery follow-ups using character skill, which basically you have to have you can only use great swords only. Improve great sword attack power, and ultimate art I will charge +2. So this is the reason why this is my little go-to loadout for Wilder here. So basically, it has 3 of what I consider to be Wilder's best little abilities. From the character skill, for the +1 additional character skill use, the art activation spreads fire in area. It's basically when you do your ult, no matter if it's kind of like the big one or a small one. You have like a little, you have like a little art, like a pool of fire underneath whatever you nailed with the ultimate art. And also it has the fiery follow up with character skill using great swords. Now for me, I like being able to use this because not only can I be able to just possibly get closer to my target, but also kind of to be able to have like little follow up attacks, so I can hopefully do some damage. The other reason being is stamina recovery upon landing attacks, which is a nice little thing for from the earring. Got +3 and +2 in ultimate ult charge, so I both have like +5 in total. And critical hits and defeating enemies fills more of the art gauge. That's something that can be able to hopefully help you out and getting your ultimate art charged pretty quickly like. And of course, improved greatsword attack power. I mean, I feel like that's a no-brainer. I mean, fucking, Wilder's main weapon type is greatsword. So yeah, to have something like that, it's like it's a no-brainer. At least in my opinion. All right. Next up is Guardian. Now, before I continue, I do want to kind of say that some of these builds I actually have played on stream before, while others I haven't yet. Anyway, so on Guardian, I am using Guardian's Chalice, which has a blue, yellow, and white slot, and these are the following relics that I have. I have the Witch's Brooch, which has solar restore nearby allies' HP while art is active. Successful guards and shockwave while ability is active, and +3 in vigor. This is a remembrance relic that you can get for Guardian during his remembrance. There's also the cracked Witch's Brooch, but if you get this or that, they both do the same thing. And once again, here's a yellow grand luminous scene, and then we have another yellow grand luminous scene where it has successful guarding fills more of the art gauge, attack power increase for each ever prisoner defeated, and starting event inflicts blood loss. So, why is this my go-to loadout? So, basically with this loadout, it has all 4 of the main abilities to try to get your ultimate art gauge filled up much faster. From critical hits, defeating enemies, and well, actually I should say 3, excuse me. From critical hits, defeating enemies, and successful guarding. Which is, something that, you can be able to do quite a bit with, on Guardian. And plus having the ultimate art level charge +3, helps it to be able to, you can get it done a little bit faster. That's why I'm using the Witch's Brooch. It's a little, nice little thing to have because it gives you a little bit of vigor, but also, whenever an enemy hits your shield, if you're in the, the character stat, character skill thing or the character stats, whatever you want to call it, you can be able to kind of, it can like, kind of bounce them off a little bit, do a little bit of damage, and all that. The slow restore HP for while auto is active definitely can help for not only yourself but also your allies. Like like say for example, if you were to hold down your ultimate art after you've done the plummet and everything, you can build their health can be able to get refilled possibly to to full, And now, and with that, and with not only that, but you had you had a little temporary little AOE bubble thing, to where like some, to where like you and your allies are temporarily invincible until of course the game is like, hey, it's time time to hey, if you until like the time of course is like, hey, the game's like, you know you've held it long enough. So next up is Iron Eye. I'm using Iron Eye's Goblet for this, and it has a red, blue, and yellow slot. And these are the following rocks I have for him. So a red Grand Burning Scene where critical hits fills more of the art gauge. Starting armament inflicts blood loss and physical attack up +2. Next one is a blue Grand Grizzly Scene where on Iron Eye the ult charge activation adds poison effect, HP restoration upon bow attacks, and improved poison damage negation when knocked back by damage. And the final one is the yellow Grand Luminous Scene where it has +1 additional character skill used for Iron Eye, changes compelled armament skill to Rain of Arrows, Extra of Expedition, and +1 intelligence. Now, why exactly is this my little go-to thing for Iron Eye? So, I'd say mostly it comes down to the yellow relic, because even though the +1 in intelligence may not mean anything to a lot of people, but the +1 in character skill use and Rain of Arrows as the the starting armament in Ash of War, it's pretty nice to have. It's probably about as close as I can get to like a god tier like Relic for Iron Eye. Next one being, of course, on the blue one where it has like where it has the HP restoration upon bow attacks, and our activation adds poison effect. So that way your ultimate art can actually poison like a lot some bosses, maybe even like some low common to your enemies. And on the red one, I mostly have it for the critical hits, fills more of the art gauge, and starting armament inflicts blood loss. Because I don't know, like I mean, because I kind of like having at least the ability to have like my starting ability to deal blood loss, and not only with that, it's like, hey, I can be able to do I can do a Rain of Arrows, Ash of War with it and everything, and it's like, it's a nice little thing to have, especially when you can actually get blood loss proc on a handful of enemies. Next up is the Duchess. This is my little loadout for her. I'm using Duchess's Goblet, which has 2 yellows and a green. I actually had something else completely different, which I think came from Duchess's Chalice, but I managed to do something a little bit different. So these are the relics that I have for her. Partial HP restoration upon post damage attack, improved damage negation at low HP, and max FP increase for each sorcerer's right is unlocked. Next one is Grand Luminous Scene, where it has a thing for Duchess, where reprise events upon nearby enemies by landing the final blow of a chain attack with dagger. HP restoration upon dagger attacks, +3 in mine. And one of my little things I like using for her, which is the Green Grand Tranquil Scene, where it has improved stance breaking when building 2 armaments, starting armament inflicts blood loss, and changes compelled armament skill to poison dismissed at starting the position. So, the reason why I like this stuff, the reason why this is my little go-to loadout for her. Basically, for one, it actually has the knife, has her starting dagger, actually have a status element effect and also a better Ash of War. Magville hopefully, have the chances of stance breaking enemies while having 2 armaments. So basically, like if I go get 2 daggers, I can just go to town. And of course, HP restoration upon dagger attacks, because Duchess is known for using daggers. partial HP restoration, you know, the whole Bloodborne rally effect, you know, it's like, you can be able to use that, you can be able to use that in combination with the, you know, HP on dagger attacks, you know, and you can you know, kind of just go in there and try your best, you know, to take it out and everything. And I would say the FP, you know, stuff can be useful, especially if you were to, you know, get like your HP bar up pretty high, especially, you know, with opening like random sorcerer's rises throughout your expedition, and being able to use like, you know, certain you know, like staves or you know, or you know, like staves or what? I'm trying to think. It's like staves and I can't remember. It's like it's basically like the seals and the seals and staves. I think is the best way to put it. And with the repetitive defense upon nearby enemies, you can basically be able to have the ability to, at most, do you have the ability at most to pretty much do like a double reprise upon you know, on your enemies. You know, you can have like one that does auto and then one that you you know, you can be able to proc on your own. Next up for Raider, we have Giant's Cradle Grail, which is all blue. So this is a lot of stuff I have for him. They're all blue Grand Drizzly scenes, as I'm trying, you know, to do this with only one hand. So on the first one, it has a thing for Raider where duration of Ultimate Art is extended. So basically, whenever you do Totem Stella, it, you know, it lingers for a little bit longer. Improved damage negation at low HP. Change the compatible armor skill to Peripheral Strike at the next start of Expedition. And on the other one, it has HP and FP restoration upon colossal weapon attacks. Even though it has a thing for Guardian, but I'll get to that in a little bit. You know, but it has, you know, it mainly has like, you know, the HP and FP restoration upon colossal weapon attacks. And then the other one is slowly restore HP for self and nearby allies when HP is low. Attack power increase for each ever prisoner defeated. And improve poise and damage negation when knocked back by damage. So, why exactly is this my little go-to loadout for Raider? So, for starters, the HP and FP restoration upon colossal weapon attack, in my opinion, is a nice little, you know, thing for Raider. It's about as close to a God-tier relic as I can get, because you know, trying to get something like this is very rare. And you know, depending on what kind of, you know, colossal weapon I have, especially, you know, with what Ashen Warrant has, you know, I can be able to use that quite a bit. Case in point, you know, for example, being able to use Peripheral Strike, because Peripheral Strike is one of my favorite little Ashes of War to use, because if you can be able to pull it off, you can be able to get some health back, not only for yourself, but also for any one of your allies that, you know, might be nearby. Attack power increase for each ever prisoner defeated. You know, nice little thing to have, especially, you know, for, especially, you know, for, you know, when you have those, you know, the regular maps, you know, you have the Everjails and stuff like that, and you can go get stronger and stronger each time. There is technically an alternative that I have that I kind of play with from time to time on the first relic, which is using the Will of the Blue Balancer relic, and everything. But this is kind of like the first little instance, if you will, of what I call the Colossal Restore. Alright, so Revenant. In her case, I'm using her Chalice, which has a blue, green, and white slot. First one is a blue Grand Drizzly scene where it has trigger Ghost Flame Explosion during Ultimate Art activation. Increased rune acquisition for self and allies, +2 in vigor. Next one is max FP increase for each Sorcerer's Rise unlocked. Improved poison damagation when knocked back by damage, and ultimate art charge +2. And then the yellow grand luminescence makes a return. So this is kind of like the mindset. Even though I haven't done a run of this build yet, but the thing I was kind of going for was trying to hopefully get the ability to fill my ultimate art gauge as much as possible. Not only to hopefully like revive my teammates if they're nearby me and they're down, but also to be able to trigger the ghost swim explosions, because having that can also be able to be used to kind of clear out a crowd. And the increased rune acquisition for self and allies, that's the little thing to have in my opinion, especially for trying to get high level, get your levels high and maybe being able to to buy things. And max FP, increased resources rise unlock. I know one thing about Revenant is that she's known to use like seals and stuff like that. So it's be a nice little thing for her to use. So yeah. Alright, for Recluse, I'm using the soot-covered Recluse's Iron, which has 2 reds and a yellow. First one is a Grand Burning Scene, where it has improved poison damagation when knocked back by damage. Changes compatible armor and sorcery to Briars of Punishment, External Expedition, and physical attack on +1. Night of Dregs, which you get from defeating the Dreadlord. This has status element, gauges slow increased attack power, attack flick rot when damage is taken, and rot in the vicinity causes continuous HP recovery. And then I have a yellow Grand Luminous Scene, whereas collecting affinity residue activates Terra Magica, which is one of the things I like kind of using for her, because I can be able to do that, because it does it automatically instead of having me like using it on my staffs. Partial HP restoration upon post damage attack, that's a little nice little thing to have in my opinion. And face +1. So the best way I can describe it is kind of like a thing of as to like why how I kind of chose this little setup. Is because for one, it has the collecting the infinite residue activates Terra Magica, so I can be able to hopefully get my FP restored a bit more quicker. I got some stuff involving my health a little bit, from like possibly if there's any rot in the vicinity that gets caught, gets afflicted to some enemies. I can both do that, and also maybe get a little bit HP recovery, and also having the partial HP recovery upon post damage attack, where it's like if I get lucky and not get one shotted, then I can probably hopefully get my health back a little bit. Maybe not in full, but And then on the first one, it has Briars of Punishment, because supposedly that's kind of like I think a friend of mine, I think my friend Onyx says that he likes using Briars of Punishment whenever he plays Recluse, which I feel like is very rare. But but like ever since ever since they introduced the ability to change like like a starting armament thing on staves and seals, it's a nice little thing to have in my opinion. And plus, the improved poison damage negation with knockback by damage, not too bad either. Even though physical attack on +1, may not mean much, but it's still something. Alright, next up is Executor. This is what I like to call my trio proc build. And I'm using Executor's Urn, which has a red and 2 yellows. So I'm using the Golden Sprout, which you can get from doing his Remembrance, where it has Roaring, restores HP while art is active, HP recovery from successful guarding, and suddenly restore HP for herself and nearby allies when HP is low. Night of the Miasma, you get this from defeating regular Caligo. Frostbite, Vicinity, Conceal Self, changes compatible armor and skill to Chilling Mist at Storm Expedition, and attack power up when facing frostbite afflicted enemies. And then there's Night of the Wise, where you can get this from defeating Sentient Pest, regular one. Increase maximum FP, starting armament inflicts poison, and poison from rot vicinity increases attack power. So, this is what, so I like being able to use this because on Executor, you can be able to actually have, you can basically be, okay, so on Executor's, blade, katana, whatever you want to call it, it has basically what is called the innate effect, which is bleed. And with this, in this case, you can be able to add on top of that, something else. So like for example, in this case, like, oh, um, I'm going to have poison be a second little status effect. You do that, you will have like the chance to be able to, proc blood loss or poison on your enemies. And then with this, you can be able to have a third little thing, which is having chilling mist to inflict frost. And this one right here, I kind of use for the roaring restores HP for roaring restores HP while Artist active. So basically, when I'm in the beast form, whether it be like for myself or my allies, if they're in front of me, like we get a little bit, bit of healing back, and also if I can be able to, if I can be able to like pull off successful guarding and everything like that, I can get a little bit of HP that way. So yeah. Alright, next up is Scholar. And for this one I'm using this urn, which has 2 reds and yellow. I haven't played Scholar in a hot minute, which I probably might actually try to one day again. But I'm using Red Burning Scene, where it has HP restored when using medical boluses, etc. Items confer effect on about allies, and small pads in possession at the start of expedition. Now, I believe you can be able to get this from the collector's sideboard, outside a round table. This one right here has a thing where it has continuous damage inflicted by old targets threatened by ultimate art, increased rune acquisition for self and nearby for self and allies, and physical attack up +1. And then once again, we have the return of the Yellow Grand Luminous Scene. So, why do I have this on my Scholar? Why do I have this on Scholar? So, the idea is trying to hopefully get the ability to fill my ultimate art gauge by either doing like critical hits or just defeating enemies overall, and plus with the +3 and additional ultimate art all charge, that could be thing to hopefully get things done a little bit faster. And then with that, anyone that's targeted by my ultimate art, get like it has like the little additional tick damage, so that even though it might not be much, but it's still something to, to do, and you can be able to kind of pile on more of said damage and everything. Another reason for it is because the increased rune acquisition for self and nearby allies. Very nice to have. And then for this one, he starts out. He has an extra pouch. He can be able to get healed. You can get a little bit of health back from medical boluses. Anything that's pretty much anything that's consumable. And because of how, like, whenever the more you use certain things, like like the consumables and stuff like that, the more you can be able to level them up. And you can be able to not only use it on yourself, but also be able to use it on your allies as well. So, if you got like a, like a max level, I guess you say kind of like a max level pickle turtleneck, and you can be able to use that on yourself and your teammates as well. And finally, we have the Undertaker, which I'm using her chalice, which has a green, yellow, and white slot. So the first one is the glass necklace, which you can get from doing her remembrance. As Ultimate Art, activating Ultimate Art increases attack power, successive attacks boost attack power, and Ultimate Art auto charge +3. Once again, we're there Grand Limited Scene returning. And the Grand Tranquil Scene where contact with allies restore their HP while Ultimate Art is active. Also it has improved poise and damage negation when knocked back by damage, and Ultimate Art auto charge +3. So the story behind this is basically trying to hopefully get Ultimate Art, filled up as fast as possible to use on Undertaker. And having like a couple of little things, especially made for her from the, Ultimate Art increasing attack power, and maybe having a little something, to help my teammates out, with, when I, when I make contact with them while, my Ultimate Art is activated. And plus, successful attacks boost attack power, the more whacking I can be able to do, the more powerful, she could, become, damage and everything like that, so, yeah. But yeah, that's basically all of my, my builds for, each character, especially, like that one little go-to build that, that I think is pretty nice to use. Some of them I have used before on stream, but others I have not yet, but one day I might actually rectify that, and everything. But that might not be for a while though, because I kind of have some other ideas and stuff in plan on the store. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the builds and everything like that. If you have any ideas or suggestions, write them down in the comments. Let me know, and I might look into them if if I get lucky to maybe have something a little bit better. But until then, as always, though, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video or live stream. But until then, as always, please take care of yourselves and have a good week or weekend.